Hi, all my mathematicians. Thanks for being flexible with this and getting your study guide checked. So I'm going to go through each question and you're checking yours. So you would want yours answers written out on a piece of paper, any piece of paper at home. You didn't have to print this actual paper, and you can check it with mine. So you'll want to have done them. All right, so Tanya needs to write the number 21 and 12 thousandths as a decimal on her science lab report. How should she write this in standard form? So when we look at, I'll get some good colors here, our 21 and 12 thousandths, the and is for sure telling us that there is a decimal. So, which we have in all of them, and 21 is in front of the decimal. So this is still a contender, and so B, C, and D are still a possibility. This one's not because it says 12, not 21. So we have 21, and then we're looking for 12 thousandths. So 12 should be behind the decimal, but it should go all the way to which place value? It says thousandths, so we should have a 12 thousandths. Well, this one says 12, but it goes all the way to what place value? The hundredths, so that's not an option. This one doesn't even say 12 at all. It says 121. And then this one, D, is our last option. It is 12 thousandths, so 21 and 12 thousandths. So D is our answer here. So let's look and see how you did on number 2. So number 2 says identify the decimal each grid has shaded. So for this shading, we have unit cubes, and this one has rods. So the unit cubes are each worth 100th. So we have 7 of them, and it's 7 hundredths. So we should see that's 7 tenths. This is 7 hundredths. So then this one being the rods, each worth a tenth. So we should have 7 tenths because there's 7 of those rods shaded in. So now the biggest part of that we learned from lesson 1 is the relationship between the two numbers and their value. So if I have 7 tenths and 7 hundredths as my option, I would have 7 hundredths can be multiplied. See how I'm forcing you to use multiplication? So if you used a tenth, that means it's going backwards. In this case, it's forcing you to think about times 10, and it equals 7 hundredths. Oops, wrong way. No, it does not equal 7 hundredths. So I need to erase that. You would not get the same answer if you multiplied it by 10, right? So it would equal 7 tenths. So remember when we would write this out, put a 0 in there. So times 7 would put it in the tens place. So that's kind of the thinking behind that one, okay? Number 3 now, we have 3 correct answers. Oh, look how nice. They told us 3 of them are going to be yes. So we want to know which ones are equivalent, meaning equal, to 3 and 87 thousandths. So 3 and 87 hundredths. Well, I just said thousands. It can't be hundredths, right? That's the part that's making it no. So we have an 8 in this one, expanded form. So 8 is in the, they mixed it up on us. 8's in the thousands. 8's in the thousands. 3 is in the ones. Okay, 3 is in the ones. 7 is in the thousandths. Okay, this one works because they're all in the place value that it's supposed to be representing. And this one's expanded form, but just a little bit together. So 87 is together, but is it in the right place value? Nope. 87 is supposed to be go all the way to the thousandths place. So that one is a no. And looks like if we're supposed to have 3 correct ones, these should be yes. Let's prove it. So 3 is in the ones. You betcha. 3 is in the hundreds. Sure thing. 7's in the thousands. Sure is. That is a yes. Okay. What about this one? So this one, that was ripped. That was the digit and the place value. So this one, we have the digits in the place value. 3 is in the ones. 8 is in the hundredths. Should be. 7 is in the thousands. Yep, that's going to work. So that one's a yes. We got 3 of them. So all the different ways we can show that number. Awesome. Okay, what about these 5 newborn babies at a hospital weighed the following weights in pounds? Which weights round to 8 pounds? Select all that apply. Okay, so it has to round to 8 pounds. Kind of looks like an 81, but pounds is LBS, and I know we've talked about that before. So if it's rounding to 8, we're really rounding it to the nearest ones place and seeing which one would become an 8, right? So looking at this 0, it looks like this one is going to round to 8. This 7, it holds, looking at the 0, it's not going to round up, so this is not an option. This 5 would make it round up to an 8, so C is also an option. So we have A and C so far. And then what about D? So we're going to look at the 5, and what's the 5 going to make it do? It's going to round up to a 9, so that's not an option. Getting a little mixed up here with my answers. So A and C are only answers so far. What about E? Is this going to round to 8? So the 8 is going to make the 7 go, yep, up. So it worked. So those are our 3 options as our answers: A, C, and E. Okay. All right, what about this next one? Duncan told his friend Tran that when you multiply a number by 10 to the second power, you can just write 2 zeros after the last digit of the number. Duncan gives the example of 4 times 10 to the power of 2 to prove that this is always true. Tran disagrees and gives an example of 4 tenths times 10 to the power of 2 to prove Duncan's rule is not always true. So we need to decide who is right and why. It's not very clear in the question there that that's what you're doing. This is just like that Caleb and Noah question. So Tran is the one who is right. So I can write this in here. Tran's right because Duncan's only right if it's a whole number. Then you can just put those 2 zeros on. But if you have Tran's example and it's multiplied 10 to the power of 2, that 4 is moving 2 place values to the left, and it wouldn't have 2 zeros. It'd end up being a 40. And therefore, Duncan's not always right, especially because it's decimals, okay? In which number does the digit 3 have a greater value? So we have a 3 in the hundreds and we have a 3 in the thousands. So which one is greater? It should be A, the one that has the 3 in the hundreds, because the more you move to the right, the smaller the value gets. All right, almost done here. So which of these changes would make this comparison true? Select all the correct answers. Ooh, it's kind of like a riddle-ish type of thing. So round this number to the nearest tenth. So if we rounded it to the nearest tenth, would it still be true? All right, so tenth is here. So that means it would be a 5 and 5 tenths. So would this still be true? Would 5 and 6 tenths be less than 5 tenths? Yes, it would be true. So we're shading that one in. What about this next one? Increase the tenths digit to, okay, so tenths right there to a 6. So then we'd have 5 and 67. Okay, so we just changed that number. Would this still be true? So if we had 5 and 67, would this one be less? Yep, because that's technically like a 0 there. So this one's true as well. What about change the 6 in 5.6 to a 4? Okay, so we'll have a 5 and 4 tenths. So if I change that, would it still be less than this? Yeah, because it's like a 40 and that one has like a 47. It's still less. What if we reversed the tenths and the hundredths digits? Reverse. Okay, so that means like flipping them. So reverse the tenths and the hundredths. So we would have a 5 and 74. So see how they switch, just those two digits? Would that still be true? Okay, so we would have a 5 and 6. Yeah, that one would still be true because the 5 and 60 hundredths is less than 5 and 74. Okay, all of these are true so far. All right, one more on this one to check. Increase the tenths digit in 5 and 6 tenths to a 7. Okay, so if we did that, then they're saying switch the symbol to greater than, and then it'd be 5, what they already have there. We're comparing that to see if it's true. Would it still be true? Yes, it would. So we need to think about this as like a 70, and the 70 is greater than that 47. All right, last two questions to check. So we have blocks of cheese, and the deli is weighing them, but we need to round them each to the nearest hundredth of a pound. So when you round the cheddar to a hundredth of a pound, you would have 75 hundredths. And then Colby Jack would be 63 hundredths. And then Havarti, one of my favorites, it would be 75, because that 9 made it round up. And then, oh, my decimal looks like a plus. What about feta? We have, so this is going to make that 9 go up, which would make the 69 change to a 70. And then we have to put them in order, and they need to be in least to greatest before we've even rounded them. So the smallest one before rounding would be, I'm going to look left to right. So first I have a 7, a 6, a 7, and a 6. So it's between Colby Jack and feta. So this one has a 63, this one has a 69. So Colby Jack is going to be first. And then that means feta would be second. The third one, okay, so now these started with a 7. So I have a 75 and I have a 74. Okay, Havarti. Havarti would be first before the cheddar. So cheddar's last. All right, they're in order from least to greatest. So I compared them tenths and hundredths, and then didn't even have to get to the thousandths to compare them. Last question on percentages. So Kara ordered shirts for a school fundraiser. The size large shirts are 23% of the shirts. So if there were 100 shirts, how many of the shirts are a size large? So 23 out of that 100, that would be 23 shirts. And then writing this as a fraction, go back to my marker here. So a fraction would be still out of 100, so 23 hundredths. And then decimal, since percent means out of 100, we would have a decimal, a 2, and a 3 to represent 23 hundredths. Okay, how'd you do? If there was anything that was still a little fuzzy, I know that was fast, or you're not quite sure, or you really didn't see where I was getting my answer from, hop on the Zoom and let's check it out and talk about it before the test tomorrow. Okay, thanks.